News now at this hour begins with updates on the U.S. elections, where Donald Trump has delivered a victory speech at the Palm Beach County Convention Center in Florida as he emerged winner of the presidential election after beating Kamala Harris in a stunning White House comeback. In his address, he called for national unity, urging the American people to put the divisions of the past 4 years behind them. Now, Trump was joined by his family as he celebrated the moment with supporters who chanted USA.
This was a movement like nobody's ever seen before. And frankly, this was, I believe, the greatest political movement of all time. There's never been anything like this in this country and maybe beyond. America has given us an unprecedented and powerful mandate. We have taken back control of the Senate. Wow, that's good. It's time to put the divisions of the past 4 years behind us. It's time to unite. And we're going to try, we have to try, and it's going to happen. Success will bring us together. I've seen that. They came from all corners, union, non-union, African American, Hispanic American, Asian American, Arab American, Muslim American. We had everybody, and it was beautiful. It was a historic realignment. This is a great job. There's no job like this. This is the most important job in the world.
Now, still on the U.S. elections, Republicans have won control of the U.S. Senate with wins in West Virginia and Ohio, ensuring Donald Trump's party will control at least one congressional chamber next year. Now, today's results have strengthened Republican influence, enabling them to support Trump's judicial and government appointments if he wins the presidency, or to block much of Democrat Kamala Harris' agenda should she prevail. In West Virginia, Republican Jim Justice also won the Senate seat formerly held by Democrat-turned-independent Joe Manchin, while Ohio's Bernie Moreno defeated incumbent Democrat Sherrod Brown, securing a 51-49 majority in the Senate. Republicans have also won key House seats, expanding their 220 to 1-2 majority. In a notable outcome, Delaware voters elected Democrat Sarah McBride, making her the first openly transgender member of Congress. However, final results are still pending in some races. Now, to talk more on this, we're joined by News Central's international correspondent, Afia Hagan, who has been monitoring the polls in the U.S. Afia, let me start by asking you what the mood is and how the people are reacting to the victory of Donald Trump in the just concluded presidential election.
Well, around Howard University, where we were only a few hours ago, that is Kamala Harris's alma mater. That's where she had a huge rally last night that was tipped as a victory rally. Unfortunately, it wasn't that. A very somber mood. Lots of people shocked and very, very disappointed that the Harris-Walz campaign did not prevail. Around the White House, there was real scenes of celebration from Indian Americans for Trump, South Asian Americans for Trump, playing drums and waving flags. They were jubilant. And so it is a tale of two halves this morning. It's a game of two halves, isn't it? And lots of people, especially here in Washington, D.C., which is a Democratic stronghold, lots of people here are very, very disappointed. There is a general sense of shock. I think, once again, don't trust the polls, right? We were saying for weeks, and I have been saying for weeks, that the polls were neck and neck, that sometimes even Harris had a 1-point lead, well within the margin of error. But I think this also tells us, again, which we learned from the 2020 election, that Trump supporters are underpolled. They are underpolled all the time throughout every election. So actually, when we were saying that the race was very, very close, that Harris had a 1% lead, they were perhaps 3 or 4 or 5% out completely. So, yeah, lots of shock, lots of disappointment on one side and lots of celebration on the other.
So, Afia, we understand that, of course, there have been dip divisions that have characterized the country's politics in recent years. But how do you think the speech of the newly elected president, Donald Trump, will guarantee the nation's unity, seeing how even now, like you mentioned, there's been somber moods across board, considering the fact that there were a lot of people campaigning for Kamala Harris. How do you think that this his speech, or he assuming power, would balance things up?
Well, it's interesting actually that he chose to talk about unity in that speech, people coming together. He mentioned all the different, ethnic groups that voted for him, and of course he had widespread support across the board. His message in the past couple of weeks has not necessarily been one of unity. It's definitely been more revengeful. But now that he is headed for his next term in the presidency, he's talking about unity. I think that's something that a lot of people will appreciate, because America is a deeply, deeply divided, deeply polarized country. If it wasn't before this election, it most certainly is now. And actually a country that would very much benefit from unity. But if that unity is real unity and is for all. Trump, when campaigning, was talking about mass deportations, also making it much more difficult to come to this country. So is that unity? Is that unity that he's been talking about over the past few weeks? Not necessarily. So hopefully we will see that now that he is headed for his next term, he will understand the value of bringing this country together, of trying to bring together those divisions, those fissures that remain across America, and take America forward. He's talked about a new golden age for the United States. It has to be a golden age for everyone and not just for the few.
All right, Afia, thank you so much for joining us. We'll definitely look to you to give us more updates on how the people are welcoming this new development. But also joining us now on the news is the former Director General of the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs, Professor Bolaji Akinteriwa. Professor Akinteriwa, thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to start by asking, what do you make of the emergence of Donald Trump as the winner of the presidential election in the USA? Professor Akinteriwa, can you confirm you can hear me, please? Professor Akinteriwa, can you hear me, please? All right, well, wait to connect with Professor Akinteriwa. We've heard what the mood is like in the U.S. With our correspondent, Afia Hagan, who's given us an update on how the people are reacting to the news. But in the meantime, we go back to the Nigerian president, Bola Tinubu, who has extended his congratulations to Donald Trump on his re-election as the 47th president of the United States. In a statement issued by the Special Advisor on Information and Strategy, Bayo Ononuga, President Tinubu expressed optimism about deepening ties between Nigeria and the United States. Now, Tinubu emphasized that Trump's victory demonstrates the trust and confidence Americans place in his leadership, applauding the commitment of the U.S. to democratic values. Reflecting on Trump's previous experience as the 45th president, President Tinubu expressed confidence that Trump's return to office would foster a new era of productive, mutually beneficial economic and development partnerships between Africa and the United States. Away from the U.S. elections now and back to stories from within Nigeria, where the death has been announced of Lieutenant General Taoreed Abiodun Lagbaja, who until his death was Nigeria's Chief of Army Staff. There had been speculations about his whereabouts when President Tinubu announced the appointment of Major General Olufemi Olatunbosun Oluyede as the acting Chief of Army Staff on the 30th of October. Special Advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, Bayo Ononuga, made the official announcement of Lagbaja's demise on his X handle at about 9:15 a.m. on the 6th of November. News Central's Bernard Akede gives us a brief history about the life and times of the late general.
born 28 February 1968, Lieutenant General Taoreed Lagbaja was the Chief of Army Staff of Nigeria. He was appointed on 19 June 2023 by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to succeed Lieutenant General Farouk Yahaya. Lagbaja, who hailed from Osun State, was admitted into the Nigerian Defense Academy in the year 1987 as a member of the 39th Regular Course. He was commissioned as a second lieutenant on 19 September 1992 into the Nigerian Infantry Corps. Between 1992 and 1995, Lagbaja was platoon commander of the 93 Battalion. From 1995 to 2001, he was platoon commander of 72 Special Forces Battalion. In 2001, Lagbaja obtained the bachelor's degree in geography from the Nigerian Defense Academy. He studied strategic studies at the U.S. Army War College at the master's level. In 2009, he became Deputy Chief of Staff G1 at Headquarters 81 Division, and subsequently he became Commanding Officer at 72 Special Forces Battalion, Makurdi, from 2012 to 2013 and from 2014 to 2015. In 2016, Lagbaja was named the Chief of Staff at Headquarters 8 Task Force Division, Mongunu. He served as Director of Operations at the Army Headquarters Department of Army Training and Operations from January to December 2018. He was a commander of Headquarters 9 Brigade in Ikeja, Lagos, and Headquarters 2 Brigade, Uyo, Akwa Ibom States. Before his new appointment, Lagbaja was General Officer commanding Headquarters 82 Division from March 2021 to August 2022 and Headquarters 1 Division from August 2022 to June 2023. Earlier in 2008, he attended the Military Observers Course on Peacekeeping Wing at the Nigerian Army School of Infantry, Jaji, and ECOWAS Standby Force Battalion Command Post Course, Peacekeeping Center, Bamako, Mali. Before his unfortunate passing, Lieutenant General Lagbaja participated in several key operations, including Operation Harmony 4 in Bakassi Peninsula, United Nations Mission in the Democratic Republic of Congo, Operations Zaki, Internal Security Operations in Benue State, Operation Lafia Dole, Operation Mesa, Operation Udoka, Internal Security Operations in Southeast Nigeria, and Operation Forest Sanity, Internal Security Operations in Kaduna and Niger States, amongst others. Lagbaja was married to Maria Abiodun Lagbaja, and the marriage was blessed with 2 children. In Lagos for News Central, I'm Bernard Akidi.
You must not take sides. Check the book.
The life and times of the Chief of Army Staff, Taoreed Lagbaja, we pray his soul rests in peace. Now, reactions have continued to trail the arrest and detection of the vice presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party in the 2023 presidential election and immediate past governor of Delta State, Ifeanyi Okowa, over alleged diversion of 1.3 trillion naira. Now, the 1.3 trillion naira reportedly represents the 13% derivation fund from the federation account, between 2015 and 2023. News Central's correspondent Austin Azu tells us more.
Operatives of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission had on Monday arrested the former governor of Delta State and detained him at their facility in Port Harcourt over alleged diversion of 1.3 trillion naira, which represents 13% derivation fund from the federation account between 2015 and 2023. In Asaba, the Delta State capital, mixed reactions have continued to trail the former governor's arrest.
Now, today, I don't listen to the arrest of Okowa. What Okowa do now? I'm master of fraud now. What are going to arrest master of fraud? No, not my first time to yesterday arrest Okowa. I bet who arrest Okowa made them bail and beg. Okowa now our right man. He try for Asaba. At least he make Asaba look okay. Yesterday I hear but that news to me, I think they don't know a political sabotage. They want to spoil his name because I know Okowa right from time.
Spokesperson for the Delta State chapter of the National Youth Council of Nigeria, a prominent human rights advocate and public affairs analyst, has described the former governor's arrest and detention as politically motivated.
Within the 8 years of Okowa's government, the total budget was roughly 3 trillion naira. You can't tell me he diverted 40-something% or misappropriated 40-something% of every money that came of the full budget. It's absurd.
Of course, this is a politically motivated investigation. We all know, even a brainless fowl knows that. But the good news is they say a cinema run it when no man pursue it. He says Okowa did not run. He didn't run like Yaya Bello that has been taking shade with his the present governor of Kogi State.
But by and large, I will not subscribe to any act of wasting the people's fund. So it is left for EFCC to do a due diligence, and if he is found guilty, they cannot think of how to do prosecution.
According to Labour Party's National Vice Chairman for the Southside Zone, Tony Ezeagu, the EFCC's invitation to the former governor is a standard procedure for the anti-graft agency unless proven guilty by a competent court.
But whatever it is, we will want to wait, because I am sure that you know that Labour Party is not part of those who, discuss or talk anyhow. We want to talk and be sure of what we are saying. We want to be positive. So at the end of the day, we leave all the things in the hands of EFCC, who have opened it to do the needful.
After the 2023 general elections in Nigeria, former Governor Ifeanyi Okowa has made history as the first immediate past governor from the South-South region to be probed by the EFCC over allegations of misappropriating public funds while in office. In Asaba for News Central, I'm Austin Azu.
That was a report from our correspondent in Asaba, Austin Azu, on alleged corruption. We go on a short break now, and when we come back, driver resists arrest, douses vehicle and officers with petrol in Lagos State. We'll bring you the details after the break. Many thanks for staying with us. Very quickly, let's go back to the U.S. elections, where we just spoke with our international correspondent, Afia Hagan, who has been monitoring the elections. And now joining us is the former Director General of Nigerian Institute of International Affairs, Professor Bolaji Akinteriwa. Thank you, Professor Bolaji, for joining us. Professor Akinteriwa, if you can hear me, please confirm.
Thank you for having me. I am Bola Akinteriwa.
Could you please say that again?
Yes, I'm saying I am Bola, not Bolaji. The only Bolaji that is well acknowledged is Professor Bolaji Akinyemi.
Right.
But I am Bola Akinteriwa.
Right. Sincere apologies for that, Professor Bola Akinteriwa. Thank you for joining us on the news. Now, I just want to quickly find out, what do you make of the emergence of Donald Trump as the winner of the presidential election?
Well, many observations can be made. The first is that one should ask how Americans can afford the luxury of voting in Donald Trump, bearing in mind that he had many convictions. He's been found guilty of many crimes, but he is yet to be actually, taken into prison. All right, he was on record to have had more than 90 convictions. And yet, even though we have this criminal record, the American voters still believe that it will continue. So that raises many fundamental international questions as to why somebody who has this type of record would still be admired. Second point is that the Americans are on record to tell the world that American supremacy is subject to no controversy. And the Americans will want to insist on that particular personality, status, integrity, character in international relations. So, this election clearly shows that Americans do not care more in what you think you are, but what is American must always, be sustained. You will know quite well that the major dynamic for the establishment of the BRICS is to oppose the Western domination of international.
Unfortunately, we're having a bit of audio issues with Professor Bola Akinteriwa, but he was able to share a little bit of his concerns regarding the United States voting results, which made Donald Trump emerge the president. Hopefully, we can get his views some other time. But right now, let's come back to Lagos, Nigeria, where a commercial driver is on the run after allegedly assaulting an officer of the Lagos State Traffic Management Authority, or LASMA, in the Mile 2 area on Tuesday. According to LASMA spokesperson Adebayo Taoreed, the incident began when officers approached the driver for a traffic violation. In a shocking turn of events, the driver reportedly resisted arrest, dousing the vehicle and some officers with petrol before setting it ablaze and fleeing the scene. The officer involved sustained severe burns and has since been taken to a nearby hospital for treatment. Taoreed confirmed that efforts are underway to locate the driver and his assistant, pledging that those responsible for the attack will be held accountable. Now, the 2024 Nigeria Diaspora Investment Summit has entered its second day in Abuja. The three-day summit, themed Adapting Stability Through Diaspora Investment, Navigating the Path to Prosperity, seeks to attract investments in all key sectors of the nation's economy, identified as crucial for spurring growth and development. News Central's business correspondent, Perpetual Fasumi Peter, was there on day one of the event and filed this report.
The Nigeria Diaspora Investment Summit is an annual event that highlights the importance of diaspora investments to the nation's economic growth. President Bola Tinubu, who was represented by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation while opening the three-day event at the State House Banquet Hall in Abuja, remarked that diaspora investment is essential to building a stable and prosperous nation.
The diaspora plays a critical role in any nation's development. You, our brothers and sisters abroad, are an indispensable asset to a great nation.
The chairperson of the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission and the Nigeria Diaspora Investment Summit coordinator both highlighted some of the success stories of the summit in the last few years, urging more diasporans from Nigerian extraction to invest in the country.
Investing in Nigeria through the Nigeria Diaspora Investment Summit is an incredible opportunity, which I want every one of you to take advantage of. Our country, under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, aims to achieve a 7% growth and become a $1 trillion economy by fostering robust growth in micro, small, and medium enterprises, industrialization, digitalization, and innovation.
Some of the attendees at the event also called on government to match its words with action and improve the ease of doing business in the country.
What I would just like for government to do, if it's possible, we've done businesses and been invited by other countries like France, Qatar, and all that, is to work on what is called a soft landing. When you work on a soft landing, by industry, then you're able to kind of attract people that want to come and invest their money here. But if you make it easy for them, soft landing, helping with incorporation, making their coming in back to Nigeria a little bit easier, I believe the government can come in that area and actually create a program that will address basic need of people that want to move back. And I believe if they do that, if they're able to provide that cushion, more people will be able to come to Nigeria to do business.
The three-day summit features pitching sessions, exhibitions, and sponsorship opportunities. It hopes to achieve more results by attracting more investment into the country compared to previous years since its launch in 2018. In Abuja, for News Central, I am Perpetua Fasami Peter.
Many thanks for staying with us. Now, in the south of the continent, Mozambique's Defense Minister, Cristóvão Chume, has issued a stern warning that the military may intervene if post-election protests, which have turned deadly, continue across the country. Speaking at a press conference on Tuesday, Chume condemned the protests, stating that they're sowing division, spreading hatred, and destroying infrastructure. Now, he described the demonstrations as part of an attempt to destabilize the government. The minister's warning comes as opposition leader Venancio Mondlane calls for a large protest in the capital, Maputo, this Thursday, declaring it as a day of Mozambique's freedom. Now, as the Africa Energy Week enters day 2 in Cape Town, South Africa, delegates from across the continent and beyond continue to engage in crucial discussions on Africa's sustainable energy future. They're also highlighting the urgency of addressing energy poverty and accelerating the energy transition in Africa, with panel discussions exploring responsive strategies Africa can adopt to bolster its energy security and position itself as a leader in renewable energy. Meanwhile, Nigeria's Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Heineken Lupobiri, emphasized that Africa must unite in its fight against energy poverty. And our News Central's Director of Programs, Tolulokwe Adeleru Balogun, joins us to give us an update on day 2 of the event. Good afternoon, Tolulokwe. Can you give us an overview of the ongoing Africa Energy Week so far?
Blessings. It's been a really packed and interesting event. As you can see behind us, we're actually now at a technical session where a company called Movida is actually unveiling one of their products. So what we've had throughout the course of the past 2 days is companies that are part of the oil and gas sector talking about the developments they've had, the technology they've put into place, and of course trying to also show what they have available and what they are offering. So we've had that, and we're here right now in that presentation. We are able to speak to the Minister of Petroleum Resources for Oil, Heineken Lupobiri, just about 2.5 hours ago outside one of his sessions. And it was quite interesting to hear him talk about Africa's energy poverty and also the fact that we as a continent would not be willing to let go of the resources in the ground because the West wants to. These are the same resources that the West used to industrialize, and it is unfair. And he actually said hypocritical for the West to believe that the African continent should leave those resources in the ground. So he spoke to him about the African energy poverty gap. We also spoke, of course, about technology. We spoke about the Africa Energy Bank, and he talked about the fact that he was one of the ministers involved in making sure that the Africa Energy Bank takes off, which is under Afri-Exim. We've come from a session with him right now looking at investing in Nigeria Energies. That's a session that has a number of international oil companies. He's representing the federal government of Nigeria on that panel, and the conversation is about what the opportunities are in the Nigerian energy space, oil and gas space, even renewables as well. So that's part of what we've seen so far today.
All right, Tolu, we also understand that Nigeria's energy contributors, solution providers, have joined their counterparts in South Africa. What would you say has been the highlight for us as a country, and what's our key take-home?
I think one of the highlights also would be hearing from the OPEC General Secretary, that's the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, and he spoke about the fact that there needed to be collaboration between NOCs, national oil companies. So the conversation shouldn't just be limited to IOCs, that is of course international oil companies, but also collaborations with NOCs and an opportunity for countries to be able to collaborate with each other. Saudi Aramco, one of the, I believe, OPEC's largest producer, is also here present, and they've come, and we also had confirmation from Nigeria's minister that they've actually been in contact with Nigeria in terms of collaboration and the potential for investment as well. So looking at where collaboration can take us between NOCs and IOCs is one of the big conversations here that we're seeing. Additionally, we had the minister at one of his sessions talking about the fact that before he came here, he just signed 4 new licenses for refineries in Nigeria. So we're hearing about developments in the oil and gas sector, not just in Nigeria, but across the continent. But of course, knowing that there's collaboration on the table, there's content development on the table, there are a number of things on the table. I think probably financing is the one that that interests and also excites people the most because of the potential to help bridge the financing gap that many of us see in the oil and gas sector here on the continent.
All right, News Central's Director of Programs, Tolulokwe Adilere Balogun, thank you for giving us an update from the Africa Energy Week, and we'll definitely see how that pans out. You're still live with us on the news. We'll go on a short break now, and when we come back, we head over to sports stories. Stay with us. Hey, thanks for staying with us. Now to sports. Victor Gyökeres scored a stunning hat-trick as Sporting Lisbon beat Manchester City 4-1 in a surprising Champions League upset. Now, City took an early lead when Phil Foden scored, but Gyökeres equalized just before halftime, showcasing his strength against City's defense. Ruben Amorim, Sporting's coach and soon-to-be Manchester United manager, led his team to dominate after the break. Maximiliano Araujo put Sporting ahead seconds into the second half, and Gyökeres followed up with a penalty goal after a foul by Josko Vardiol. Now, City's Erling Haaland missed a chance to reduce the gap, hitting the bar from a penalty, while Gyökeres completed his hat-trick, handing City their heaviest European loss since 2018. And that's all on the news at this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of our major stories. We told you that Republican claims victory in U.S. presidential election. We also mentioned Nigeria's Chief of Army Staff, Taoreed Lagbaja, dies at 56. And finally, we mentioned that Mozambique's defense minister threatens military intervention after days of post-election violence. You can watch News Central live on DSTV, channel 422, Star Times, channel 274, Evo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Blessings Mosugu.